I've got Andrew Clennell, our political editor, and Kieran Gilbert, our chief news anchor here. Look, it's I don't think it's a surprise, but still would be a blow, given we did see a breakthrough with Cheng Lei. This case, I think there was always less hope, but nonetheless, this will be a real hammer blow for Yang and his family.
Look, I just thought, having visited China with the PM, that there was some hope in this department, even if it was a more lenient sentence than what we've seen. I reckon the Australian government would think the same, Tom. I think they'd be quite disappointed. It just goes to show there is still a long way to go in that relationship with China, doesn't it? Just 5 days ago, the new ambassador to China, Scott Dewar, was handed his credentials with 41 other ambassadors by President Xi. And then this hammer blow, that's a baptism of fire for him. So Anthony Albanese chuffed about the Cheng Lei release, which obviously preceded his trip. And he made that announcement, I think, with Penny Wong from memory. This time, Penny Wong out there the day before the first day of Parliament to announce very bad news indeed for Yang Hengjun. I mean, every time a journalist asked about Cheng Lei, they were asking about Yang Hengjun in recent months, including during the PM's trip to China. We're just trying to get one of those question and answer exchanges for you now. But the Foreign Minister there saying she was appalled. I don't think they were expecting this at all. They've had a lot of things go their way, the Albanese government, when it comes to the lifting of trade sanctions, the release of Cheng Lei. This is a step backwards and will be perceived as such.
What do you think, Kieran? So I think Andrew indicating perhaps we weren't expecting, and he's out tomorrow, but life imprisonment effectively, which is what we understand this will become. No, it doesn't get much worse than that.
No, it doesn't. And you saw the gravity of what's just gone on here by the fact that the Foreign Minister has come out and used the language Andrew pointed out, said she's appalled by this sentence to death, effectively commuted to life in prison for Yang Hengjun, despite the huge diplomatic representation that's been made, comparable to Cheng Lei. Cheng Lei now, thankfully, back in Melbourne with her kids. That's not going to be the same for Yang Hengjun. But I thought you saw there with Penny Wong that tightrope, that diplomatic tightrope that she has to walk here. On the one hand, saying, yes, she's appalled by this sentence, but on the other, she can only go so far, Tom and Andrew, because there are still some appeal avenues open to Yang Hengjun. Not that you would have any confidence at all that he would have success in that regard, given the way that this whole trial has been conducted. But the other thing is, she can't go out and just simply slam the Chinese system because, as you say, we have this period of rapprochement. There's been some gains made, and she repeatedly said there, this is a judgment of the Chinese legal and judicial system. So it's this delicate balancing act that they're trying to navigate right now. On the one hand, reflecting the Australian view that this is an appalling outcome, but by the same time, at the same time, not simply repudiating and condemning the Chinese system as an adjunct to that.
What a blow, though. I mean, he's about to address caucus, the PM, big rev-up speech for the year. He's had a great news poll. They feel like they've had a win with this tax cuts change. Just goes to show you what happens in politics and government, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And now you've got this situation, and they've been keen to poke the opposition day after day almost on this China issue. We could handle it, you couldn't. We could establish a good diplomatic relations, you can't. And that's one of the reasons why the PNG Prime Minister Marape this Thursday morning will be addressing the Parliament. These fears of PNG entering into a security agreement, as well as our security agreement with them, and that fear still remains. That the Chinese government, I think, they will say it's about their justice system, but I think it's also very much about them flexing their muscle, and saying you're not going to get it all your own way. Now here is the Prime Minister on his China trip, being asked about the fate of Yang Hengjun. There's no way he wouldn't have discussed this matter with President Xi and Premier Li during that trip.
Did you raise Yang Hengjun, and what are your hopes now for his release?
Yes, I did raise it. I can confirm I raised it. So,
what response did you get?
Well, I raised it in the meeting. So.
yes, as you point out, more hopeful note there, Andrew. Look, we spoke about the Chinese judicial system, and viewers will say to us, who thinks that's anything mirroring true justice? But you alluded to the fact that this relationship and any sort of positive outcome down the track for Young would rely on what it usually does with China, the capricious nature of leadership there. If they decide that they want to send a positive signal or give a quid pro quo somewhere, maybe there's a chance because they're in control. That's the reality.
There they are. And if we look at this as being, the steps made towards healing this relationship, that's true. And there's been various steps forward, like on trade, like with Cheng Lei. But you do reach a point with a totalitarian and a society and a system like in Beijing where there's actually no further ground to be made in cases like this. You hit a brick wall. And today the Albanese government hit that brick wall with that capricious legal system that you referred to and the arbitrary nature of the way the Chinese system and the Communist Party controls everything.
And we're looking at President Xi or Premier Lee, certainly Premier Lee, coming here this year. So that's going to be awkward now, isn't it? But
I'm not sure how many open press conferences they do, but if there is one, they're the questions that
I don't think there
will be throwing there.
Well, there won't be one, you'd assume. I mean, and that would be difficult in itself. And this is the first hitch.
2 by 2 they do. But
No,
you might get statements here. I agree with you, Kieran. So you'll get statements and that's it. It's the first hitch in terms of the re-establishment of relations with the Chinese government, and oh boy, is it a big one.
I guess the final thing that just makes you reflect on this when you think of the risk when we talk about, trade. I mean, not so many years ago, it was sort of like get to China, get business links there, but how many citizens here, even if you're going there to tap into a potentially lucrative market, would not go anymore?
I don't think that, to be honest, I wouldn't suggest that that's going to have a massive impact in that regard. I think what today is about is a very stark reminder of just the limitations in how close you can get to this giant of Northeast Asia. That we can have better relations, we can sell our goods to the Chinese community and an economy, but the Chinese Communist Party has a way of doing things, and there is only so close Australia and our democratic procedures are going to get close, as close as they can get to China, but there are limitations to that. We saw them today.
And how lucky is Cheng Lei? I mean, it just illustrates it again.
But it was never a foregone conclusion.
No.
Even though
but I think this illustrates it. And, 40% of our exports go to China. So when people say Australia has to have a relationship with them, that does seem the case. But, what's that term Albanese always use? Disagree where we must, cooperate where we can.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be disagreeing about this one.
Yeah.
I think the PM should make some sort of statement about this, to be honest. I know he's addressing caucus, but he should put out a statement. He should certainly say something in the House tomorrow. It's a pretty important matter.